there's sort of moments in life that you come across someone that you immediately understand that there's something incredible about them. And I say that, being a judgmental person with trust issues, I say that sparingly, but this is an interview with Melanie Spencer. So she's the group CEO for Socialites, which is a really prominent social media agency in New Zealand. I think they're like the 11th of 50 fastest growing Deloitte, if that's how you say it. Either way, they're growing fast, they're doing well, and they help big companies and small, medium companies. And we talk about the challenge of balancing being a mother as well as a CEO, the trials and tribulations Mel went through to sort of be where she's at, and as well as what you should think from a tactical standpoint in social media. So this is just a reflection on how fortunate that I had the opportunity to meet people like Mel, and anyone else. I don't know where I was going with that, but she's cool. You're going to learn a lot. If you want to jump on the newsletter, links in the bio. Not going to ask for anything, just for you to open every single email. So our open rate's 100%. No pressure. I will kick into it. I always sort of start a podcast off by asking the context of what you do, just so people don't listen for 40 minutes and then realize that it's not necessarily for them, or it was for them all along and they should have focused more.
All right.
So what do you do?
What do I do? So I am Group CEO of Socialites Group. Socialites Group is a social media marketing agency, and we run social media campaigns for large enterprise brands across New Zealand, but we've actually run campaigns across, we counted up the other day, 69 countries across the globe, and we do influencer marketing, social media marketing, and everything else in between. So every platform that you can think of, we run campaigns on. TikTok?
Even?
Absolutely.
Okay,
of
thank
course.
God. Thank God. Finally a market that's actually onto something.
Yeah, no, of course.
Okay,
that's
good.
Old school.
Yeah, it's washed up now. It's been years and people still buying.
TikTok.
God, the amount of people I have to convince. I'm like, hey, look, this whole podcast grew from that.
Yeah, it is hard to convince people because people don't like new things.
Yeah.
We're still playing in traditional media, and which has its place sometimes. But yeah, that's what I do. We've got over 30 employees or team members, I like to call our team, and social media experts across media buying, content creation, account service, community management. So
you got very formal and polished, so we got to unravel that. You're doing too well at this. We got to think about more about your life. So, you're
see
playing.
how deep we can go.
Yeah, well, I love it. you said your open heart or whatever it was, heart on your sleeve.
Heart on my sleeve. Yeah.
So when you were like 4, you're playing with social, and you're like, oh my God, this is my dream. Like, what were you doing? Like early childhood, like what's going on?
Yeah.
That led you down the path that you're at now.
Okay, great question.
Okay, sure.
Because I kind of knew exactly what I wanted to do. Maybe not when I was 4, but possibly when I was 10-ish. I collected magazines well before social media time, even though I look a lot younger. No.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
Collected magazines, and I loved the storytelling and the imagery and just everything about it. And I've still got that collection today. I've got Vogues, I've got interior magazines, I've got I used to when I was younger, dollies and that sort of thing, but I knew from that age that I wanted some sort of media company. And back then social media obviously wasn't a thing. And I remember my best friends and I caught up when we were about 19, and we sat around with a couple of bottles of wine, and we all had to guess what each one of us was going to be or do in 10 years' time. And we would also have to say what we thought we'd be doing in 10 years' time, and we put it in a time capsule, and it was literally pretty much spot on.
Wow, all of the
all
friends.
Of them. all of them.
Jeepers, that's some good friends.
Yeah, so there's about 7, and I said I wanted to own a media company, and back then I didn't know what that looked like, but and another one was an architect, another one was a opera singer. We had a few mums in there, and all came to fruition. Not 10 years, but probably 15 years later.
Wow. Cool. Yeah. Executors.
Yeah.
A group of executors.
Yeah. But I think it's, you kind of, if you've got this thought or this dream or this perception in your mind, it kind of unravels in your life as you go.
I agree. There's Tony Robbins, he actually uses, references a book, Maxwell Matt's Psycho-Cybernetics, and it talks about, he's a brain surgeon, you struggle to differentiate between the vividly imagined and what's real. And I imagine that as well, like kind of like a radar. You start looking for those opportunities that are either reinforcing your identity or finding solutions to the vision that you're trying to create.
Have you read a book called Into the Magic Shop?
Nice. Okay.
You've got to read that.
It's on recording, so I have to remember. I just got to go back and listen to it.
It's really good.
Can you repeat it for the people listening for the first time?
Into the Magic Shop.
What's the context of Into the Magic Shop? No pressure. It's not like you read it 10 years ago.
Yeah, I probably did read it. No, I read it a few years ago. But it is about putting your thoughts into reality. And it's not about, I'm going to be a millionaire, and then all of a sudden you're a millionaire. But it's you're going to have to edit this out.
No, you're owning this. This is great. Fluster, the successful CEO, group CEO even.
It's about creating your thoughts and turning them into reality. But there's a storyline. And this guy that came from absolutely nothing, and he wanted to be a doctor, and he was not the smartest kid. He was the poorest kid. Everything was against him. But he found a way to become a very, very successful doctor. Okay. And it's just the story about how he did that. And that's all about mindfulness, meditation, believing in himself, and creating this pathway to do so.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really, it's a magical book.
And there's no way we know, because you talked all this game about I'm a leader, let everyone see how I am. So here we are.
Pretty much.
Okay, cool. So you're sitting around with the team. Were they all girls, all women? Should I say?
Yes, they were all women. The
so
sisterhood.
You got the girls to get the women.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, I'm going to do this. What was your next step? We're like, oh my God, I actually have to do this? Or
no, didn't even think about it.
Okay.
That's the thing. That's what I find so interesting.
Okay.
Is that when you're younger and you've got this, this passion or these things that you're interested in, your life almost unfolds around this deep subconscious thinking rather than it being conscious. And it's kind of like sliding doors. And I was just presented with opportunities that brought me to where I am now.
Where's the mess? Where'd you start fucking up? That's cool. That's the fun part. We all see I got your nice watch and your earrings. You got it all worked out. Yeah. What went wrong?
So much.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, no, a lot. Did my final year at university in France, and I got a first class honours, and I thought I was pretty shit hot, and arrived in London, and I was like, woohoo, I'm a Kiwi, I've got a first class honours. Surely everyone would want to give me a job. And that was not the case, but I went into finance and worked on trading floors, which was finance is not my strong point, funny, and had the time of my life. It was incredible, travelled the world, and then after a couple of years went to Australia, probably a bit of a fuck up, but it wasn't, because I went to Sydney thinking, I've got this first class honours, I've been to London, I want to get into marketing, and went into a recruitment agency, and they were like, oh, we'd love you to get into recruitment. And then I saw the dollar signs, and I was like, yep, I want to do that. That's certainly not the pathway that I had envisaged.
Yeah.
But it taught me to sell. More fuck ups?
No, what? No, you're doing well.
There's
You're
so
going.
many.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I think often people will see the finished product, someone's got it all worked out, but in reality, it's just I think that the money you earn is proportionate to the problem you solve, and the ability to navigate the stress and to overcome the things. And you know, as you say, you hide your age well, but there were key market events, especially if you're in recruitment. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate what age we were around different points, but like, what do you think was a turning point where you're like, okay, I'm actually going for the media company? Because a lot of people are sitting here rooted in place and not taking steps.
Yeah. Another great question, because there was a turning point, because the money, back then I was young and earning quite a bit of cash for what I was doing.
Baller.
And not really, but I probably was in my early 20s.
Well, you felt like it.
I did. I actually did a bit.
100%,
and I was like, yes. But there was a point where I was going, the money's not enough. And I got introduced to a lady who owned a PR firm, and her name was Sophie Lander. And she's like, and I didn't even know really what PR was back then, which was ridiculous. But went into her office, and she's like, I'm looking for a PR exec, and I dropped my salary hugely, and that was the turning point, and the best decision I've ever made. And I was with her for over 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sophie, did you say?
Yeah.
What were your lessons from Sophie? Shout out, because I think, I mean, I'm nothing without the people that have shown me stuff. They're making the invisible visible. Is my mental likes to say. Yeah,
I agree. No, Sophie was she was a renegade, which I absolutely loved.
That makes sense.
She was not your typical PR person. She was not about the champagne and back then it was all about the champagne and the partying, but that wasn't the case. She was definitely a renegade, and she was difficult to work with. And I found out then that a lot of people that I work with tend to be quite difficult people, but they're ambitious. They know what they want and they say what they mean. And a lot of people couldn't handle that.
Yeah, can imagine.
So I became her sort of right hand gal.
Fire extinguisher.
Possibly a little bit. But I learnt to deal with difficult situations pretty early on.
What was that like? So you got this person that's got this amazing vision. I want it now. Maybe I'm making assumptions, and she's just blunt. And you're coming in, schmoozing, using your recruitment. What was it like either having a leader that's so ambitious and trying to navigate that where it's, lands a little softer using your sales skills? What did you use to...
Yeah, that's actually probably a really good synopsis of how it went.
Yeah, I thought so.
But everyone loved her for it.
Yeah.
But I would do exactly that, soften the blow a little bit. And that's why we work so well together.
Do you think you took on some of those attributes? Like normally people might go on more the agreeable side for the sake of the group or people please. And then you have someone that's the polar opposite. So you take on some of what they're doing. Did you have a little bit of that, like your own personality in Sophie's, and then merging it to be a more complete group CEO?
I have only really just learnt that.
Yeah. That's important. So how did you get around that?
To have the courageous conversations. I don't like confrontation. In fact, I used to despise it. And I used to run away a mile, but I can't in my job now not to have the courageous conversations. But I think you can have the courageous conversations and still be kind. Yeah,
I make a differentiation between kindness and being nice.
Yes.
Because it's the reality. Yes. If you're not talking, sorry to interrupt. If you're not saying that what you think the person needs to hear, are you helping them or are you doing it for yourself?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
how do you create the space that enables you to have courageous conversations? Or how do you inspire, like you're just shaking, like, okay, I'm going to have the confidence, and then you do a few breathing exercises. Like, how do you get through that?
Well, if you don't have it, there's no momentum.
Hmm.
And momentum is everything, especially in business. And if you are stopping every time you have to have those courageous conversations because you don't want to, then you're stopping the momentum. And especially in digital and social and media, if the momentum is not freaking fast, you're going to be left behind. So I always have this: what is best for the business and what is best for the people in the business and our clients. And I always have that in mind when I go into having that courageous conversation, that kind, courageous conversation.
Yeah, seeing how you frame it definitely helps. Doesn't always feel kind when they're just not landing. I had a friend I was hanging out with not long ago, and she was she started rescheduling a lot and being late. So when she came in, I said, "Hey, I noticed you're being late. It's disappointing. You know, I want to be able to rely on you, and it just feels like of late juggling that CEO life. Well, keep rolling. Let's how the camera rolls. Because I did that to you, so
didn't turn it on silent. Sorry,
rookie. I thought you worked at the Ice House, the podcast guru.
That's terrible.
Doesn't matter. And then the emotional resistance comes up.
Yeah.
Because it's challenging, and even for change, like any sort of aspect or having that courageous, candid conversations brings up stuff. Hence why they do it.
Yeah.
But then over time, she settled, thought about it, and was actually grateful for the accountability. And so now we have that as part of our friendship on another level. So I find that the best leaders are the ones that can navigate that kindness as well as the business acumen. So, and I do, unfortunately, from what I've seen, some of the great female leaders that I've come across find it hard to navigate the kind candor as well as being seen as bitchy.
Yeah.
So what are your, like, if there's any women listening to this or are making assumptions and generalizations?
A few assumptions, but I think we all make assumptions.
Call me in my place.
And I certainly make assumptions. I think that's been flushed out. Well, I hope. I've got this utopia of the sort of arrogance, ego, bitchiness being flushed out, because the younger generation just don't put up with that bullshit anymore.
Okay.
And I certainly don't put up with that sort of bitchiness. If
you must get racked up, then suddenly you can stand up for yourself, because it sounds
I do.
Is there a level where you're just like, get fucked, you're out of here?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But without being a bitch.
Yeah,
I do it with the best intentions.
Yeah, that's how you sleep in it. So to speak.
Yeah, and I think context is everything.
Yeah.
When you're having that courageous conversation, it's about giving people context and information so they know what's happening is impacting a certain thing or a certain person. And my team will know that one of my favourite sayings is context is everything, with each other and with the clients and with everybody that we deal with. Yeah.
Well, and then I didn't tell you while we're talking that I'm gonna change the camera over while still talking, and it's all gonna fall apart because it only goes for 30 minutes.
Okay.
But I am listening intently.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
awesome.
Amazing.
So well, I'm gonna just keep on looking over there, but do I look at you while you're changing the camera over?
Yeah, no, we keep rolling. Just so you know, like anyone that's listening, I gave a tip around looking trustworthy on camera, and it's a good idea. You'd think in life you're not going to look around and like keep talking when you're meeting a person in person. But then on video, people do it. They're like, I'm looking at the camera. I'm looking at the camera. Who like, imagine someone asks you where the bathroom was and they're shiftily looking around. I don't feel safe. Let's not do it on video. And I changed that camera through that whole time.
You did not. That was amazing.
Yeah.
See, I looked at it.
You did. Now you're shifty. You lost all trust.
Damn it.
You're cooked. Okay, so I know I'm staying on this point, but I think
Yeah.
it's a very, even Gary, Gary Vaynerchuk, you probably
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
He sucks at that kind candor,
Yes.
and it's something he's worked on.
Yeah.
And it led to a lot of, he'll just fire people and they won't know why.
Right.
Lack of context.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So what do you either teach other leaders that you recognize having that issue, or other staff members to create context either for the client? Like, you have a sequence, you have a process before they come, you say plan and prepare, or you say, go for a walk, smoke 10 cigarettes, and come back in.
I definitely smoke 10 cigarettes for sure.
Is that your thing?
100%. Oh, no.
I was worried. Okay. Yeah.
No. Did in London. That was
on the trading floor.
Yeah, on the
Can't
trading
imagine
floor.
why. Yeah.
Look, I think context is everything. Information is power. So when you are going to have a conversation with someone, you sure as hell need to have both sides of the story, and all the information that you can get. You don't want to go flying in blind, because that's when you do look like a bitch, or you do look like an arrogant prick. Thanks
for including me.
I wasn't including you. That was not a generalization. You've got to have both sides of the story. And I think another favorite thing that I tell the team is, or try and teach the team, is put yourself in the shoes of the other person that you're dealing with, and always try and not pretend, but imagine that you are them, and what are their stresses coming from? What is keeping them up at night? Are they nitpicking because their job is on the line, or it might be their business, and they're financially stressed, or so yes. I hopefully teach the team to get as much information as possible. Knowledge is power. Gives them context. Put yourself in the shoes of the other person, and then go forth and listen as well.
Yeah. What? No. Lame jokes, dad jokes, team. Sorry. And I think I went to a cult, just on a side note. But people don't think it's a cult. It's called Landmark Forum. But there was a valuable thing that I went there for a day, and you by no means any association. This is me speaking for me. They would say there's the already always listening voice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, how does this impact me? What should I say next?
Mm-hmm.
And I find that as well, like when people are going through certain challenges and they're witnessing it around them and they want to support them, and they think the answer is a solution, when the answer is to listen. And like, as much as we know that, it's the most valuable skill I'm learning.
Same.
But just the value, I think, as a leader, is not having the solution but asking the right question, because they already had the right solution. So let's go back though. Okay. You 7 years, Sophie's causing all this ruckus. You're sweeping everything up.
Yeah.
Now you're doing this. What happened? Yeah.
Okay. So, came to New Zealand. 3 babies.
3 babies.
Three babies.
By yourself?
No, I came with my husband.
Okay.
Who is now my ex-husband.
Oof.
And we, so we're going to get deep here. I did look at the camera, and it's, I am trustworthy as I tell you the story, because I'm going deep. Okay. So we did separate when the 3 children were really young. And we just recently moved back to New Zealand, and I was like, shit, I've got 3 babies.
Yeah.
And I think I had to make a decision. Being a single mum, I had a little bit of money from the house that that he bought off me. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? This pot of money, it's not going to get me through. But I decided then and there that I would invest in my career. And childcare, childcare is very, very expensive. And even my salary back then wasn't even covering the childcare, let alone the children.
Yeah.
But I was head down, bum up. And I was like, I will work harder than anybody else so I can move up as quickly as possible. So that was kind of the, I guess, to get to where I am now. Was 10 years ago. I consciously said, I'm going to invest in my career. I made lots of sacrifices. Didn't go on holiday with the kids. I'd be home working every summer all through the school holidays. In fact, the last couple of years, or even this year's the first sort of year that I'm taking 2 weeks off during the year for the school holidays with the kids. So, yeah.
Heavy. I mean, I find breakups, like kids and separation. I help people with the mess, but I've never been in that, just breakup. But the opportunity for change, the hitting the rock bottom, the realization of the aspects of your life that I'm fulfilling, and then the motivation to change, because the resistance to change is an emotion. But if your life sucks more than that resistance to change, then you got to suck it up. So
absolutely.
So what were the kids? How old? Well, I mean, 10 years is a bit tough to remember. But
yeah, no. So back then they were young, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah.
So what were you doing? You had them juggling? You there at daycare? Like, how did you?
Daycare, nanny. My mum, who is not alive anymore, but she was looking after them, and just juggling. And I would work long hours on pittance, absolute pittance. But I knew that if I did my head down, bum up, and just work as hard as possible, I could get out of it. So
do you ever reflect, like, because my mother's an incredible woman, and she's well, I got my work ethic and I like to think integrity from her, but she's more integral than me. But she would breastfeed me at work and hustle, and then there was a moment where she left when I was younger, and she holds a lot of guilt/responsibility for how she either felt she could have been more of a mother, and she's done an amazing job. But do you feel, that career and motherhood?
Yeah.
Do you feel anything like that, or regret, or?
Yeah, all the time.
What would be the thing that
much so? And I've got a new baby.
New one?
So I've got a 10-month-old. So I've actually got 4 kids.
Jeepers.
And my 4th is to my new partner, who's now my husband.
Cool.
And
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, all the time, like literally all the time. But my older kids, I'm quite open to them about it, and they are like, Mum, we're proud of you. My oldest was like, Mum, I really rave about you to my friends, but I don't want to tell you that because I don't want you to get a big head. And it's like, that's super cute.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Yeah.
And historically, you did get a big head.
No,
times.
I never.
You said it on air. What did you say? Oh yeah, I'll stay. I had this honors thing,
yeah.
and then
when I was young, and I
you changed woman.
and in fact, I learned from then never to have a big head, because you get slam dunked pretty quickly.
I get slam dunked often. I just like to feel pretty. I don't know how to word it any different. Like I'll just do something. I'll be like, look, did I do good? And they're like, yeah. Even though, why are they still reminding me?
Nothing like a bit of pat on the back.
Yeah, no, it's essential. Yeah. Especially kids. Especially when you're like, oh shit, did I do something? And they're still commend you for it.
Yeah. They're okay. They're good kids. So let's just touch wood and make sure that
well, it's their responsibility. Now they're old enough.
Yeah, exactly.
12, 13, 11.
Yeah.
Was that right?
12, 13, 15.
Oh, I wasn't listening then.
Yeah.
I'm talking a whole lot of okay.
Yeah.
Well, there would be people listening now that are trying to navigate that family and success.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the most value you can give your children is to be present.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be all the time. It's just about you're not carrying work home with you and being the best you can for them. Whether it's women or like a mother or father, how do you juggle as best you can? Obviously not the perfect mother, not the worst mother. Done pretty good by one's oldest standard.
I don't know, but yeah. Yeah.
What would your advice be on, like, one, the fulfillment you might get as a mother and then sacrificing that for a career, or how to juggle both?
Yeah, I think it's really important. One of my good friends who is an architect, she was really wise.
Wait, was she one of the sisterhoods from 19?
She is. She actually is.
Oh, epic.
She is. And she is a wise lady. And she was like, Mel, when you have kids, your career cannot... It's very hard for it to catapult or to increase really quickly when you have young kids. And the point of staying in your career is it just stays status quo for a bit, but you've got that foundation from which to move from when you're ready to really get back into it. And I think that is the sacrifice that you make, not being with your kids, but you have that strong foundation if you stay in your job or your career when you've got younger kids.
Okay.
The sacrifice of giving up your career and not investing in it like I did, it is very difficult to move fast and into a more senior position quickly. How do you juggle? And how do you have that quality time? I think that's just personal. For me, it's been on the sidelines when I can, and having those deep and meaningful conversations with them, which I do. We have dinner time every night together, and we have seriously weird banter with each other, which I love, and like guffawing all the time. And sometimes we have like real deep conversations that I never had as a kid, and I think that's meaningful. I think that is important, and I think the kids appreciate that as well.
Makes sense. I mean, he's got a bit of a bad rap. People feel differently about him, but Jordan Peterson's a clinical psychologist that says controversial things and also some good things.
Yeah.
And he talks about that a fulfilling marriage just needs an hour of undivided attention a week.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. I would almost agree with that.
Almost.
Almost.
You're doing 45 minutes a week and it's a chore. Nah. Every dinner is pretty good.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, when we've got them, we definitely all sit down, and we've just got a little bit of a thing where we say bon appetit tout le monde, and I don't know why, but that's where we all tuck in, and then we go around the table and talk about. Sometimes I will ask them, what was a great thing that happened that day, and then it kicks off. We talk about sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah, I had a feeling, you're polished, but you've seen life.
Oh yeah,
I had a feeling your weird banter was like no holds bar, but not on the podcast. I would do it. You probably should. You got the successful brand. I'm just sort of enjoying it, just doing whatever I want. Okay, well, I think it would be important to. Well, it's interesting. Imagine if someone didn't juggle the two and didn't pursue their career, and then you hear things like postnatal depression or resentment.
Yep.
Blaming the kid for not being able to do that.
Yep. I mean, it's all part of life, isn't it? But I think we've got to accept where we are and be thankful for whether we don't have to work and we have that choice, or whether we are forced to work and then we've got an amazing career with an amazing business and healthy, great children. Pretty lucky at the end of the day.
I feel like I've got this accomplished businesswoman CEO. I'm just talking about motherhood. I think it's important. There'll be other execs watching this and they'll be like, yeah, I know exactly what you're going through.
No, I think it's actually really important to talk about it because I think there are so many women and men. My husband at the moment is actually more at home than me.
Cool.
I went back to work after 2 weeks after my fourth baby.
You're a savage.
And he has stayed at home and he is kicking off a new business. Cool. And also working another job few days a week. So he's the one that's juggling.
Yeah, respect.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mr. Husband.
Shout out to Mr. Hubby.
Mr. Hubby.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you put your head down. You hustled 10 years. Had a holiday coming soon. So you weren't working for much at the company now, and then you're starting at an entry level and work up, or did you start the business, or?
No. So Wendy Thompson founded Socialites 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was with another agency, and I've been doing social media since its inception, and I was with a branding agency, and I kept selling in social media, and I was like, I feel like I'm in the wrong job here. And Wendy and I knew each other from a long time ago, and we sort of caught up, and she was like, I'm looking for someone to buy in. And I said, look, I'm not ready at the moment. It's not really for me, but I keep my ear to the ground. In fact, I told a couple of my friends about it, and I was like, this is a great business, etc., etc. But then it just kept playing on my mind. And we caught up again, and I said, hey, Wendy, I'm actually thinking, how about me? And she was like, sure. So we actually dated for about a year. Like, we caught up, we talked, we riffed, we workshopped, and then decided that the time was right, so we sold our house to invest in the business. Yep. And so
park benches? No. Really.
Yeah.
I sat on park bench. Obviously, you've done better in life. I was in a tent for a year and a half, just doing whatever fuck. Yeah, that's the story for another day.
That sounds like I need to reverse and ask you a few questions. That's interesting.
Yeah, but then you're too comfortable in that space, so we've got to make you squirm. But if you want, anything you want to ask.
So decided to take the leap, and that was over 3 years ago. And so Wendy and I have been side by side and leading the business, and here we are now.
There's two things I noticed whether partnerships succeed or not is whether they build a fence at the top of the hill or clean the mess up at the bottom, so everything's clearly defined when they start.
Yeah.
The other thing is one's across each other's area of competency, because if you don't understand it, then you're at risk. So how do you think you both complement each other? Because she was obviously Wendy.
Yeah.
Wendy was reaching out to fill a void, or maybe to expand or whatever. But what do you think your two skill sets are that complement each other?
Yeah, they definitely do.
Okay.
Wendy is...
Is she a savage like Sophie? That's me saying. You love Sophie, not me.
So Wendy is very focused. Give her a project and she will just go for it. Whereas I'm more like
fruity tooty, just
and I'm in everything. So and I'm almost running between the clients, the HR, the biz dev, the everything. So kind of across all aspects. And Wendy's a very focused person.
Detailed orientated.
Very much
by the book.
Yeah.
Compliance.
Yeah, she's
Gestapo. No, that's not.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, but very, very detailed oriented. Whereas that's not me.
Yeah, well, that's hence why you're the front of house. That's why you communicate. Detail-orientated people, as lovely as they aren't normally the ones that are in the social encounters, but then they also do appeal to a different market.
Very much so. Yeah.
As I push the button again, I think it would be interesting to talk about actual social media because, you're an advocate for TikTok, so you must know something. Where do you think either businesses are going wrong or where there's an opportunity in the market? Like if someone's hearing this, they're inspired, they're going to get in social. Yeah. What would your advice be?
Fit for purpose on each platform. So don't create a TikTok that you're throwing up on, I don't know, something, I'm going to say LinkedIn or,
I feel attacked.
I haven't
all
even
the time.
checked, but I will.
Yeah.
So TikTok is you go to TikTok to make you smile or laugh. Like it's entertainment, and it's raw, entertaining content, and that has to be developed specifically for TikTok.
Yeah.
And also it's got to be consistent content being pushed out all the time. I've forgotten the question.
Just something, a business owner listening to this and feel inspired that they know social media is something.
Yeah.
What should they do?
To get into social media?
Yeah.
So I think they need to find out where their audiences are, or where they want, who their audiences are, and then where those audiences play. And don't try and get on every platform.
Attacked
again. I could tell.
You're just saying this because vendetta, because I asked about your life. I'm sorry, Sophie sounds wonderful. Oh, yeah, sorry.
I'm going to get you to listen to this. She's going to crack up.
Yeah, okay.
But don't, because if you're a small business owner, if you've got the time and the cash to do it, then bring it on.
Yeah,
awesome. And you know your audience is on Insta, LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter. But
Gross,
if you don't, then if you don't have the time nor the cash, then focus on a couple, and you've got to pay to play.
Yeah.
It's the most important thing. So content is one thing. The other thing is the spend that you put behind the content.
So what kind of spend do you put behind the content? This might be more of a technical question, and I know, as you say, you're in the start of the business, and then you feed them off to people in a very loving and caring way where you want them to be successful. So you got this content, you want to, you have a feeling of your clients are going to be on Facebook. They're an older demographic, and you're thinking, okay, this is me apparently. So they're older, they're thinking about retirement planning, say something like that, hypothetically speaking. No, I was just trying to use an example. Use whatever one. That one's a boring one, to be fair.
No, it's not. It's actually, I think that's a good one.
Okay.
Because most people actually assume that the older generation are not on social. And they are.
Very much so.
Yeah. We actually did a campaign for incontinence pads.
Oh, yeah.
And on Facebook, and it went off.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
You got to check on your grandkids.
Yep.
Well, I think the reality is, without being too generalized, they have early adopters and late adopters with any technological advancement. So early adopters, like TikTok first came out, younger, more malleable people. Still malleable. I'm sure older people still do yoga, but in terms of the mindset and neuroplasticity, like changing the framework of your mind and being able to connect and adapt and change, that's more of a younger person thing. So Facebook, established market. Yeah. Saturated from all us marketers.
Yeah.
But a great opportunity to target those demographics.
For sure.
Do you like, I know there's been a few things like Apple made an update, so it's harder to track an audience, but is there something that you do with your ad spend, whether it's like you make a creative, people that watch 70% of the video, say you retarget them with something new? Like, what are the technical components behind it that you would do?
Look, it completely depends what the business objectives are.
Yeah.
Because you've got to think of, like, there's top of the funnel, so there's brand building, and there's awareness. So we call it sort of, we put it in a flywheel, and you've got the inspiration, which is the top of the funnel, which is eyeballs, getting as much awareness as possible, and social. But then you've got engagement. And engagement, you got to remember that social media is about a two-way conversation, not a one-way broadcast. So you got to create content that encourages that two-way conversation. When you get that two-way conversation, you get increased brand sentiment. When you get increased brand sentiment, it's more likely that people are going to buy. So then you push them around. We call it the flywheel. Old school marketing is the funnel, push them down the funnel, and then you've got to give them the information. So you've gone emotional, and then you're going to give them rational, because you've hooked them in, right? You've given them a smile in the mind. You've hopefully not made them cry, but you've made them, like, you've got that emotional hook. Then you're going to give them the information, where to buy, where to go to buy, pricing, opening hours, I don't know, product information, that sort of thing. And then and with every ad that goes out on social, all these objectives are there for you to choose. And what Facebook does is it helps encourage that either the engagement or that click to the website or the awareness. So that's where you choose the objectives, and then you push them around the funnel again. And if it's a click to a website or it's a click on a video, then we can retarget them. We can follow you around a bit and retarget you with more ads. But the most important thing is listening, and that is, I think, a lot of that's kind of like our silver bullet is our community management team, who are not only the banterers, they're having conversation with the community, but also listening in to trends or what your community is talking about, and then you change your content dependent on what's happening in those conversations.
Did well there, because it makes sense. Like, you're a large brand, you're a large corporation, you're doing well. One creating the creative, like a lot of them will sit in a boardroom. This is good. What the hell?
Yeah.
You create it and then you find out. But then, and then within that, the community management. So you're saying, here's this creative, and then you have no interaction with it. Can you imagine just in life? You're walking down the street and someone says, hello. And you just...
Exactly, right? That's exactly... It's so funny you say that, because when I came back from London for a holiday, back to New Zealand, walking down the street, and Kiwis used to, like, okay, I'm not that old, but they used to do that. You used to, like, say hi to strangers. And I was like, what are they doing? But that's what I say to so many people. Like, social media is exactly the same. It's developing or building a relationship with a person, albeit over a screen. You can't just like buy this phone now without having that trust layer there.
Yeah, I mean,
and that inspiration.
So this is my judgment. I don't want you to have any problems with your client. A whole lot of people sitting in a boardroom, they send it off all the different people. After 3 to 6 months, they have the approval for a creative that's just a sales pitch.
Yeah.
And then they put out their sales pitch and they get their 2 likes. Yeah. And they're like, social media doesn't work.
Yep. Get it all the time.
How do you either communicate through the channel? So there might be someone that's innovative, creative within one of those cogs.
Yeah. Yep.
Or you're talking to the decision makers. How do you get that to land? Obviously, they're like, oh, I know it works, but, not for me.
Yeah.
Not my clients. They're not on there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, they need to look at where the audiences are, survey, and digital and social has taken over traditional media. So that's number one. And number two is it's about setting those objectives and agreeing on those objectives like right up front and those goalposts. And we can tell you what is achievable and what's not. And it's also about taking the naysayers on the journey and giving them education throughout the process as well. But at the end of the day, they need to see, like, they need to get something out of it. And the reports that we present back are really, really robust and detailed. So they can see everything. The funny thing is you can't see everything from an ad. I mean, from a TV ad or out of home.
They'll rush to do that because it's something we're used to.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, let me break even with $4 million.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, but then the same thing is when there's a new innovation, the old ones have opportunities. Like, for example, like you think about, I'm going to use this on TV. I'm going to put in $2 million to get my ad out there, and they're going to skip it or look at their phone. But then you look at all the beautiful analytics and they're like, oh my god, it's just so, like, look at all the exposure and reach.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you, like, there will be 2 questions. It's almost been an hour, by the way.
Oh,
Conscious
wow.
of a hardworking group CEO.
Okay, that went fast.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. I'll take that. So one, trying to articulate brand, the return on investment of brand. It's not always apparent immediately. So how you might do that in your pretty reports.
Yep.
And then, we'll just start with that. I forgot the second one.
return on investment in brand, it's really difficult to measure. On social media, that's usually around brand sentiment, and brand sentiment is usually around the engagement. And the engagement could be a like, a share, a save, and that's where you're getting real brand value and brand sentiment. And we use a company called Zavi. They're incredible, and they measure brand sentiment on social across brands all over New Zealand. And they measure they pull out all those conversations and can measure that sentiment. And also they've proven that sentiment equals purchase power. So yeah.
Recently I've got some horrible sentiment.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I don't have the analytics. Well, I've started just speaking my truth, see what happens. So I said that if you're earning over $37,000 US, you're in the top 1% of the world in terms of wealth and earnings. And then I said about, is it really that bad you can't buy a house yet? and the sentiment wasn't great.
It's truthful.
Yeah, don't be associated with me. You've got all the analytics. I'm just like, they'll forget about it.
Throwing it out there.
They'll move on.
Yeah.
So, okay, here, let's say my judgment is with bureaucracy and challenges, and a lot of there's well-intended CEOs, and they wouldn't be successful if they didn't have some level of care for their people and have a product that solves a problem or a service that does. So they want to do well. They just might not understand what is well.
Yeah.
So if you could just walk into an organization, they had billions of dollars, unlimited budget, and patience. So like 20 years, you just do it. What would you do in that business to revolutionize it, to have brand sentiment, to have ongoing sales, and whether the brand sentiment is the sole focus for 10 years and then it's selling, it's all fine. Their books are good. What would you do?
Are their people happy?
Loving it.
They're loving it.
Just chilling. I don't know how, but yeah.
But why would I need to do anything? It sounds like they're doing really well.
They want to change the world.
They want to change the world.
So they're starting in New Zealand and they're expanding internationally.
Yeah.
And they want to have that brand sentiment. They got a very compassionate CEO that loves the people, and has a product that does make a meaningful difference to the world.
Yeah.
Just fucking giving you stuff. And then and then they're like, all right, we're going global.
Going global. Well, first, I mean, there are so many aspects to that. It's like, how
can you answer a simple question?
That's really not a simple question, because A, you've got to have the product, B, or the service.
Yeah.
B, you've got to look at how that product or service.
Oh, you're just making up excuses.
I'm not. Like, this is because every single touch point matters. It's not just the brand and how good or how good it looks, because it's got to taste right, it's got to be accessible, the price point's got to be right. I mean, everything about it, calling up salespeople or your online experience, it's all got to be like, mwah. Social media is a small part of that. So
funny you say that, because they have all that in order.
Yeah. Here we go. Okay.
So like let's say you're just on content.
Yeah.
You just got and so you can create a team of 100 people commenting on things, interacting. Yeah. You can have this amount of money focused on building a podcast or having ad spend, radio, blah blah blah.
Yeah. I'd throw them on the metaverse if you really wanted to.
Oh, the metaverse.
Yeah. I'd create a whole new world on the metaverse.
Huh.
For the brand, if you really wanted to go nuts.
NFTs?
Sure.
What's the appeal of the metaverse?
It's the next rendition of social. So I'd create this world for them that only they can own, they can develop, and their customers can experience.
Interesting. I can see why you're successful, because of the curiosity, with the TikTok, and also as well as the The metaverse. Personally, I think the metaverse. Yeah, I'm going to interrupt you today. I was just disappointed in you. That's all. The question was amazing. It's just so you create this metaverse. The challenge I think with the metaverse is hardware.
Yeah, it's still in its infancy.
I put it on, I get sick. Oh, this
I do,
this role.
I do as well.
Yeah.
But it's in its infancy. And 10 years ago, Facebook used to crap itself all the time. So, just hold on and give it a couple of years. But it's happening.
Well, then that means we're in a simulation.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of tech.
Exactly.
That's
But
probably
how
why that
fun.
doctor worked. Yeah.
How fun.
I mean, I'm
Like-
disappointed the person that's in charge of my game. It's not going. No, it is. Thank you. Whoever's got the game program. All right. Well, the listeners might feel like I wasted the opportunity of this incredibly successful woman that sold her house in 3 years and juggled. On an interesting note, on a side note, there was this lady, Sasha, that I interviewed.
Yes.
She was a single mum, pregnant.
Yes.
COVID hit,
Yes.
broke her arm,
Yes.
and she was the only business owner and staff member in her business.
Yeah.
And she just kept going.
Yeah.
Worked it out.
Yeah.
Still going for 4 years.
Yeah.
It's mad.
You gotta,
yeah.
gotta just and that is it's grit, like
Yeah.
pure freaking grit.
What was your
gets you-
biggest meltdown?
That gets you through. What was my biggest meltdown?
Yeah.
Probably this week.
Oh. This week? Wow.
No. Well, what was my biggest meltdown? This week it's been like because the pressures on businesses.
Yeah.
I mean, salaries are through the roofs. People are moving overseas. We've got FMCG and supply issues. So business is good and it is flying and we're doing better than we ever have, and we've grown something like 350% over the last few years. So it's huge. We've bought an agency. We've actually bought 2 agencies in the last couple of years. So we're growing. But the crunch, you can feel the crunch for sure.
Yeah.
But it is, you just got to keep going. If we can get through COVID, when I felt like I was on a trading floor with our clients, when COVID first hit, it was like clients were like, we're holding. I was like, felt like, and I was like, you cannot go quiet on your community now. Don't you dare. And they're like, actually, and it's the brands that went all out during COVID that are winning now.
Yeah, all the biggest brands are built in recession. But the first thing they cut, marketing. Yeah, see you later. That's right. So you're like 3 years in. Sell your house. They're what, 2 years? Like 1 year, and you're like, fucking, just like, this is easy. Okay, wow. But there's a thing that not many people are talking about, and I think business owners are aware of, which is wage inflation from a lack of migration.
Yeah.
So everyone's employed.
Yes.
And everyone's worried about their cost of living, and the businesses' costs are going through the roof.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest overheads is staff,
Yep.
and you have to pay them more to keep them, or they see you as unkind. Or
Yep. It's a thing.
So what are the
For
steps?
sure.
I'm good at interrupting you today.
You really are.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Oh, good, kind candor.
Yeah, that's okay.
That was courageous, even. No. Well, I think we're at the hour, and if it's a stressful time, we'll wrap it up. How would they find you? What sort of people should find you? That sort of thing.
I didn't even think of that. So, email me, I guess, or find me on my the website, socialites.co.nz. And really any brand. I think, we work with large enterprise brands, but we've got a small to medium business arm as well. So that's working with SMEs, and I describe it as giving them their social media wings. So, just any client that wants to get on social or build their brand's DNA on social.
Cool.
Yeah.
And don't you freak out, because all the best brands are built through the recession. We got to keep Mel going.
Yes. Go.
And don't be a chicken shit. Keep spending money on marketing. How do you think you're going to fund things if you don't have sales?
And the recession's not going to be that long anyway.
Well, it's usually 3 to 4 years.
Oh God.
So I know, this is a big moment for you, and I hope you're taking steps. But most money is lost in the preparation of a recession than a recession itself.
Huh.
Because people said it was in 2015. They missed the best growing as well as investment years.
Yeah.
So it's just being conscious of. Obviously, you're more experienced in those stuff. I'm just talking from a money standpoint.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming on. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Oh, pleasure.